I'm Mia. Standing in my new apartment, a place I bought with my own money and my name on the deed, I finally feel a sense of peace I haven't known in years. But it wasn't always like this. I lost a husband, but I reclaimed my life, and the journey was a nightmare. It all started on what I thought would be a perfect Saturday morning. The small kitchen was filled with the smell of freshly brewed coffee and toasted bagels, the comforting scent of a weekend morning. I was leaning against the counter, scrolling through emails on my phone, a lazy smile on my face. Ryan, my husband of 5 years, was sitting at our small breakfast table, watching me with an unusually bright, almost giddy expression. He'd been like this all morning, humming to himself and tapping a cheerful rhythm on the tabletop. I thought it was just because of the beautiful weather outside. "You're in a good mood," I said, taking a sip of my coffee. "I am," he beamed, his smile stretching from ear to ear. "I have some amazing news, Mia. Life-changing news." My heart skipped a beat. Life-changing? Was he finally getting that promotion he'd been after? Were we going on a surprise vacation? I put my phone down and gave him my full attention. "Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?" He took a deep breath, puffing out his chest like a proud peacock. "Honey, we did it. We finally solved my mom's housing problem for good." I frowned, confused. His mother, Evelyn, lived in a small, somewhat shabby rental apartment about an hour away. We'd often talked about helping her find a better place, maybe co-signing on a nicer rental when her lease was up next year. Solve it? What do you mean? Did you find her a new apartment to look at? Ryan's smile somehow grew even wider. He reached across the table and took my hand. His was warm and a little clammy. Better. So much better. "Honey, we bought my mom a house." The coffee mug in my hand felt suddenly heavy. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. He had to be joking. This was one of his elaborate, weird jokes. "We." "What?" I asked, a nervous laugh bubbling in my throat. "That's not funny, Ryan." "I'm not joking, Mia." His eyes were shining with sincerity, and a cold stone dropped into the pit of my stomach. "It's a beautiful little cottage just 2 towns over. 3 bedrooms, a small garden for her flowers. She's going to love it. We closed yesterday." The words hung in the air like toxic fumes, infecting the cozy atmosphere of our kitchen. We closed yesterday. My mind was in a whirlwind of calculations and questions. How? We had savings, but it was for our dream house, the one we'd been meticulously planning for, the one I'd been working long hours in my marketing job to afford. It was nowhere near enough for a down payment on a second property. "How, Ryan?" My voice was barely a whisper. "How could you possibly buy a house?" "On a mortgage, of course," he said as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. It wasn't easy, but I pulled some strings, worked my magic. "A mortgage? Ryan, your salary as a junior salesman can't possibly qualify for a mortgage on its own, and I certainly didn't co-sign anything. I didn't even know about this." The stone in my stomach was turning into a block of ice. A chasm had just opened up in our relationship, and I was terrified of how deep it went. He finally seemed to notice the look on my face, and his triumphant expression faltered, replaced by a look of placating reassurance. Okay, he cleared his throat. 300,000. I snatched my hand away from his as if I'd been burned. $300,000. I felt dizzy, like the room was tilting. Our combined 5-year plan was to save up maybe $100,000 for our own down payment. He had just single-handedly shackled us to a 30-year debt for his mother. "Are you insane?" I finally exploded, my voice raw. "Completely and utterly insane. How are we supposed to pay for that? How are you supposed to pay for that? Your commission checks barely cover your car payment some months." This was the moment when his entire plan, the reason for his giddiness, came spilling out. He looked at me, his expression shifting into one of pure, unadulterated confidence. It was the look of a man holding all the aces. "That's the brilliant part, honey," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "That's where you come in. We bought my mom a $300,000 house on mortgage, but with your salary, we'll pay it off fast. I figured it out. If we're aggressive, we can knock it out in like 10, maybe 12 years. It's an investment, and my mom gets her dream home. It's a win-win." I just stared at him, speechless. He hadn't just made a unilateral financial decision. He had volunteered my entire career, my future earnings, my life's work, as a tribute to his mother without so much as a conversation. He saw my salary not as something I'd earned through sleepless nights and years of dedication, but as a convenient, limitless resource for him to allocate as he saw fit. "Show me the paperwork," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I want to see everything. The mortgage agreement, the deed, the closing statement." Now, he seemed a little taken aback by my tone, but quickly recovered, eager to show off his handiwork. He retrieved a thick manila folder from his briefcase and spread the documents across the table with a flourish. My hands shook as I picked up the main loan agreement. My eyes scanned past the principal amount, the property address. My mind still struggling to accept this new reality. I saw the interest rate. It was astronomically high, the kind you get when you're a high-risk borrower with a low income. My blood ran cold. But that wasn't what made me stop breathing. It was the section detailing the source of the down payment. A $60,000 wire transfer. $60,000. We only had one account with that much money in it. The account I had set up years before we even met. The one I had diligently contributed to from every single paycheck I'd ever earned. My inheritance from my grandfather, my emergency fund, my future. He had found it, and he had drained it to zero. The manila folder slipped from my numb fingers, scattering a cascade of official-looking papers across our kitchen table. The loan agreement, the title deed, the closing disclosure. Each one felt like a tombstone marking the death of our marriage. My gaze, however, was fixed on the bank statement he'd printed out, the one showing the transfer. The account name was clear. Mia Thompson Private Savings. And the final balance was even clearer. $417. All that was left after a $60,000 wire transfer. "You stole my inheritance," I whispered. The words felt foreign in my mouth, like a line from a bad movie. This couldn't be my life, not my quiet, predictable, well-planned life. Ryan flinched as if I'd slapped him. "Stole?" "Mia, don't be so dramatic. It's not stealing when it's for family. It's our money. We're married. I invested it in a tangible asset. It's real estate. It's for my mom's future, for our future. My name is the only one on that account, Ryan," my voice cracked, rising with a hysterical edge I didn't recognize. "I opened it when I was young. It wasn't our money. It was my money. How did you even get into it?" "How?" He had the gall to look offended, puffing up his chest in a pathetic display of wounded pride. "I remembered the password from that time your laptop crashed and you asked me to help you log into your banking app. You said it was for emergencies. Well, this was an emergency. My mother was miserable in that small apartment, Mia. I had to do something. I thought you'd be proud of me for taking initiative." Proud of him. The audacity of it sucked the air from my lungs. He saw this not as a profound betrayal, a grand theft, but as a proactive gesture. He had listened to me talk about my private personal savings, filed away the password for his own future use, and then drained it without a second thought, all while convincing himself he was the hero of the story. The gaslighting was so profound, so complete, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. "Did Evelyn know?" I asked, my voice flat. "Does your mother know that you stole my life savings to buy her a house?" "Of course not," he scoffed. "I wouldn't burden her with the details. I just told her that we'd worked hard and were finally in a position to give her the gift she deserves. The look on her face, Mia, it was worth every penny. Worth every penny of my money. Worth every ounce of trust I'd ever placed in him. I sank into a chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. My mind was racing, trying to process the sheer scale of the deception. He hadn't just made a bad financial decision. He had planned this. He had waited for an opportunity, used my own trust against me, and then constructed an elaborate fantasy where he was the provider, the generous son, using a fortune he hadn't earned. And the worst part was the confident gleam in his eye. He genuinely believed he had done nothing wrong. He truly thought that my salary, my inheritance, my entire financial identity was just an extension of his own wallet. We need to undo this, I said, my mind clinging to the only possible solution. You need to call the bank, the realtor, whoever. You need to tell them there's been a mistake. We can't afford this. This is fraud. His smile vanished, replaced by a cold, hard glare. Don't you dare. Don't you dare try to ruin this for my mother? It's done, Mia. The papers are signed. The house is hers. You're just going to have to accept it. We'll tighten our belts for a few years. You can pick up a few extra projects at work. It'll be fine. You're making this into a much bigger deal than it is. A bigger deal. He had just detonated a financial bomb in the middle of our lives and was telling me I was overreacting to the fallout. A chilling clarity washed over me. This man was not my partner. He was a parasite. I stood up, my movement stiff and deliberate. I began gathering the papers from the table. My hands no longer shaking. The shock was being replaced by something else. Something cold and sharp. Fury. I needed to understand every single detail of the trap he had laid for me, for us, for my future. I sorted through the documents, my eyes scanning the fine print, the legal jargon, the endless strings attached to this $300,000 anchor he had chained to my leg. I saw the loan terms, the outrageous interest rate, the balloon payment schedule. It was a predator loan designed for the desperate. And then I saw the signature page of the mortgage application. There was Ryan's looping confident signature on the line for borrower 1. And right below it on the line for borrower 2 was my name, my full legal name, Mia Thompson, signed in a flawless imitation of my own handwriting. I had never seen this document before in my life. I had never been to the bank, never spoken to a loan officer, never held the pen that made this mark, but there it was, my signature, binding me legally and financially to his crime. I held the paper up, the single sheet trembling in my hand. My voice came out as a dead, hollow whisper. Ryan, what is this? He glanced at it, then quickly looked away. A flicker of something. Fear, guilt, finally crossing his face. It's just a formality. The bank needed both our incomes to approve the loan. I looked from the forged signature to his face, the face of the man I had promised to love and trust. The chasm between us was no longer just a crack in the kitchen floor. It was a canyon, vast and impossibly deep. You didn't just steal from me, I said, the words falling like chips of ice into the silent room. You didn't just lie to me, you signed my name. The air in the kitchen grew thick and heavy, charged with the toxic fallout of his confession. You signed my name. I repeated the words, letting them hang between us. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation, and the weight of it seemed to physically press down on him. His cocky demeanor finally shattered, crumbling away to reveal the panicked, cornered man beneath. Mia, I had to, he stammered, his hands fluttering nervously. The loan officer said my income alone wasn't enough. He said with your salary, we'd be a slam dunk. It was just a piece of paper, a means to an end. It doesn't change anything. It changes everything, I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, raw and painful. I slapped the forged document down on the table. This isn't just a lie, Ryan. This is a crime. This is identity theft. This is forgery. You used my name, my credit, my financial history to commit fraud. Do you have any idea what you've done? He stared at me, his eyes wide and uncomprehending, as if I were speaking a foreign language. The legal ramifications, the sheer criminality of his actions, seemed to be concepts his mind simply couldn't grasp. He was still stuck in his own delusional narrative where he was the loving son making a grand gesture. Fraud? Don't be ridiculous, he scoffed. It's for my mother. It's a good thing. The bank got what they wanted, a secure loan. My mom got what she needed, a home. We'll pay it back. No one gets hurt. I get hurt. I gestured wildly around our small apartment at the life we had built, which now felt like a stage set for a tragedy. Our life gets hurt. Our future, the future I was working for, the house we were supposed to buy together, the children we talked about having. Where did you think that was all going to happen, Ryan? Did you think we could raise a family while funneling every spare cent I make into a mortgage for your mother's house? A mortgage you trapped me in with a forged signature. The mention of children seemed to finally land a blow. A flicker of something that looked like remorse crossed his face, but it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by a stubborn defensiveness. We can still have all that. It'll just take a little longer. You're a senior marketer, Mia. You'll get another raise soon. You always do. We'll be fine. The absolute unshakable faith he had in my ability to earn my way out of the hole he had dug for us was the most insulting part of it all. He wasn't my partner. I was his beast of burden. I was the golden goose. And he had just decided to pawn my future eggs for a quick win. I felt a cold, terrifying calm settle over me. The screaming was over. The shock had passed. Now all that was left was the chilling reality of my situation. I was legally tethered to a man who saw me as a walking, talking ATM. A man who had committed a felony in my name without a single pang of conscience. I walked over to the manila folder and began methodically putting all the documents back inside. The purchase agreement, the loan documents, the fraudulent signature page, the bank statement showing the theft of my inheritance. I handled them like they were evidence at a crime scene because that's what they were. What are you doing? Ryan asked, watching me with a new kind of anxiety. The confidence was gone, replaced by the dawning horror that perhaps I wasn't going to just get over it. I'm thinking, I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. I slid the folder into my oversized work tote alongside my laptop. I need to go for a walk. I can't be here right now. Mia, wait, he pleaded, stepping in front of the door. Let's not do this. Don't walk away mad. Let's talk about it. We can make a new budget. I'll show you my spreadsheets. You'll see it's all manageable. I looked at him. Truly looked at him for the first time since this nightmare began. I didn't see the charming, funny man I had married. I saw a stranger, a con artist with my husband's face, a man who had looked me in the eye day after day, week after week, all while orchestrating this massive betrayal. He had planned it, executed it, and then presented it to me with a smile, expecting me to applaud. There are no spreadsheets that can fix this, Ryan, I said softly. You didn't just spend our money. You forged my name. You made me a party to your crime. The trust is gone. I don't know what's left. I pushed past him and walked out the door, not looking back. The crisp autumn air hit my face, but I couldn't feel it. I walked aimlessly for what felt like hours. The folder in my bag bumping against my hip, a constant reminder of the disaster. My mind was a whirlwind of lawyers, police reports, and credit freezes. But under all the logistical panic, there was a deeper, more painful question. What about Evelyn? His sweet, unassuming mother, who always invited us for Sunday dinners.